My name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My thing is to help you as a solopreneur, as a side hustler, or any type of non-traditional entrepreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur within a company or if you're on your own like myself. Today we're going to talk about why Simon Sinek says the best way to lose is to focus on winning. He talks about this in his new book, or relatively new book, called The Infinite Game. It's a decent book. It had some really good insights in there based on some classic principles, but it's a good summary of some of the theoretical things that we've learned in the coaching and also in the business highlighting profession. An example he has in there from Alan Mulally, who's actually was the CEO or head of Ford a few years back. Alan had taken over, and Ford was kind of in a decline. I used to live in the Detroit area. It was during that period of time where it was pretty rough over at Ford because they were losing a lot to the Western or Eastern Asian companies, such as Toyota. So Alan came in there and said, all right, Toyota is probably our biggest competition at that period of time. It's like they were the number one car. They were the number one car for like years, like the Camry and all those. And he was like, cool, let me go and talk to the C-suite, so the corporate suite. So that means the CFO, the COO, all the people with C's in their names, as well as some of the VPs. Let me talk to them and find out what we've discovered about the competition. So he ends up talking to them, and he's like, cool, so who's our biggest competition? Well, it's Toyota. Toyota sucks. Alan's like, all right, that's established, cool. So what do we know about Toyota? And I think they rattled off some things, some basic stuff that anyone who had a Google account could probably figure out. Alan's like, cool, let's take a look at the parking lot. How many of y'all actually have a Toyota so you know why they're special? And none of them did. In other words, the parking lot was filled with Ford cars or Ford offshoots, right? But no one actually owned or even had on the premises, I believe Simon said, no one had any type of Toyota car. So you got your literally number one competition. I think it was back when I was much younger, and I remember seeing the commercials where Toyota was like number one in this, number one that. The Camry was like the number one thing for like 10 years. I felt like it was like all my teenage years, Toyota was number one. They didn't have a Toyota car on the premises. And Alan was like, forget that. So what Alan ended up doing is having them get a new Toyota car, and they went to the other competitors, and having the C-suite take a new car every week and drive it for a week. Suddenly they had all these insights. Oh, well, Ford is messing this up. Toyota does this extremely well. They started to see the competition. They were so worried about winning and calling the other folks a loser that they didn't actually think about why they were losing in the first place. I talk about this. I think it's a great example. Again, it's Simon Sinek. He's known for the book Start With Why, also amazing TED Talks and all that stuff. This business coach is really on the money about this because this applies not only to, the corporate executives that are running, billion-dollar businesses, but also to folks like perhaps you and I, where I have my independent company, my book publishing company, my coaching practice, and so forth. It applies to us perhaps even more. Number one, you cannot create success in a vacuum. You cannot be your best in a vacuum. It's not possible. My background is journalism. I have 2 degrees in journalism, a master's in magazine publishing. I used to be a music writer. I used to write about the video game world. I have a couple books that are about video games, if you look them up for Damon Brown. So I'm used to being in the creative space. I have good friends that are DJs or doing like really cool creative stuff, chefs and so forth. So you name it, I'm probably involved in some or a couple degrees away from some type of creative profession that you can think of. The ones that really do well are the ones that actually, number one, respect their competitors. We already talked about that. But number two, those that absorb from other people, that get other insight. The ones that don't get that far, and I mean financial, their impact, whatever metric for success, are those that feel as though that their view is superior and that everyone else is an idiot. They don't get that far. They'll be like me not reading, Chris Gillenbaugh's book. That's like me not reading Marie Forleo's book. That's like me not reading Simon Sinek's books. And then trying to come out with business books like my new one, Build From Now. And I haven't read anybody else's book. It's just Damon's opinion. We get so afraid as artists sometimes for multiple reasons, is worth a whole different video. But for multiple reasons, our insecurities can sometimes get the best of us, and we don't want to look at other people's stuff. Number one, we might feel as though that it's going to pollute our view of the world, so we want to keep it pure. I've heard that from people. That's not true. Whatever your vision is, if it's strong enough, it's going to hold. Trust me. If it's not holding, then you might need a stronger vision. So some of us are afraid of polluting the waters of our particular vision, right? By taking in other people's input or seeing what the competition's doing. Or we're afraid that we'll look at the competition and realize that we're going to get smoked and we want to give up. It's from a very binary, fixed mindset, as Carol Dweck says in her bestseller, Mindset. That becomes a problem because there's always going to be competition. There's always going to be other people. There's people right now who are coming out with books around the exact same time as Build From Now is coming out. And I'm cool with them and they're cool with me because we know that there's not only a big enough market for all of our books to thrive in our particular way, but also because we respect that our voice, ironically enough, our voice is strong enough so that it will hold even with the competition. If anything, as they say, a rising tide raises all boats. Same discussion with this. When Malali, we're going to go and get a bunch of Toyota cars, and then we're going to go get some BMWs or whatever, then suddenly all the innovation started to open up. If you read my new book, Built From Now, I have quotes from, Chase Jarvis, Brene Brown, Elizabeth Gilbert, Marie Forleo, from Seth Godin, who I consider a mentor, we've connected, Stephen Pressfield. I got all kinds of quotes in there. Imagine if it was just me talking. Even this conversation right now is based on a great insight from a competitor. My book, in fact, when The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur came out and it was on the bestseller list over on Amazon, I was right up there with Simon Sinek and Chris Gillibaugh and Seth Godin. They are literally my competition. But I understand that looking at them makes my work richer, and hopefully vice versa. So we're all adding to the conversation. So number one, you cannot have greatness in a vacuum. Just no. I'm connected with a lot of creative fields. I've been around enough times to say definitively that's not possible. And the people that are trying to do that, they're not doing that well. Number two, you can't just create and not consume. There's a reverse of this, where if you're just consuming, don't be a consumer, right? If you're just consuming and you're not creating, then you're not actually contributing to the environment. You're supporting other people, but you're not contributing your own voice. Cool. But the reverse of that is also poisonous. You just creating and not consuming, that's not going to make it. Imagine being a musician and you don't listen to other people's music. Again, I used to be a music writer way back in the day for Spin and The Source and Double XL and those guys back in the early aughts. And you'd hear musicians sometimes say that I don't listen to anybody else's music. And it's like, they're not around anymore. Again, because we need, as my mentor says, we need grist for the mill. We need that feedback and that insight and to understand the bigger culture. And that's the only way we can make an impact. How are you going to nourish the world? As I say in my new book, how are you going to nourish the world if you don't know how the world operates, right? How are you going to function and get on this higher level if you don't know what everybody else is doing? You got to open up your mindset, right? So number one, remember that you cannot be great in a vacuum. Number two, you can't just create, you also have to consume. Words of wisdom from Simon Sinek. If you want to get more insight into how you can maximize your resources, come over and take my quiz at builtfromnowquiz.com. That's builtfromnowquiz.com. It's based on my new book, Built From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. It's actually a free quiz. It'll take 2 minutes. It's 3 or 4 multiple choice questions. I'm told it's super easy by the hundreds of people that have taken it. You go through there and it'll give you your best resource of the moment. Those things change. Your biggest strength right now could be different next year. I want to give you insight into that. It'll also give you insight into the new book and how you can use that framework to make your life better and also to nourish the world. But until next time, remember that you can always bring your worth and that you can always build from now. Take care.